Hi everyone, I'm sorry for being away for so long. I've been busy with moving, a new job, and other stuff. So, in this video, I want to share some ideas about map design, game genre, and style. I'm playing Overdose right now. I like it pretty much. It's a versatile map with lots of elements and details. You can freerun here in many different ways for a long time. Take the box run for example. Everyone prefers running here because boxes, columns, stairs and other elements are very well placed. The space is compact and multi-leveled, which allows you to move freely, climb easily and jump smoothly from one spot to another. This description fits the Two Towers map well, but it's much denser and more detailed. It's a large, multi-story map that's great for players with advanced skills. There are also dead zones or empty spaces with nothing around, but they're small and not too many. From these empty areas you can quickly and easily get to spots with things like boxes, railings, pipes, etc. Compared to Oil Rig with its long hallway, helipad and other large areas, it's much harder to reach certain spots unless you're playing at high speed. This map is large and more suitable for camping or high-speed gameplay. I also like the lab. It's a small, simple and filled place, but I would add a few more details in this corner, like a way to jump up the lamp or the cabinet. There could be semi-open doors and stairs leading to the hallway. I would also add a vent above the doors connecting to the stairway room so you can climb into. Maybe add some details around the stairs for tracing and much more. Quarantine maps need filled, multi-layered areas with well-designed scenes for free, varied movement. Players should logically understand how and where to move. This is the essence of quarantine maps. That's why most people like Overdose, Junk Flea, and almost nobody plays Neptune, Death Row, Silent Square, etc. These maps feel lifeless. Neptune is huge and empty, Death Row is a closed maze, Silent Square is big and boring. There should be a specific model for the location. What I mean: for example, boxes are model elements that appear on all maps, just like explosive barrels. Container is also a model element found on many maps. And if we combine all these model elements and add a few details for enhancement, we get a type of location, or scene simply called. Overdose, Junk Flea are great examples because they're some of the most playable maps, especially for freerunning. The best running locations should be picked, slightly modified, visually redesigned aesthetically, and used to create quarantine maps. Quarantine's changing, players are progressing, and it's no longer the same mode where you sit in one spot for 2.5 minutes and camp. Now freerunning, tracing, tricking have become more developed. Players want to show off their skills. It's no longer about survival, it's more about tag. Of course, there are still those who prefer the old school, just like a spec, sit in one spot and camp. But what's the fun in that? It used to be relevant, but now it's not. The same goes for active spammers, like those who catch zombies just to kill them with Claymore or N32. Infected players are not stupid. They know what's coming. Playing as a zombie is not enjoyable, especially when you know you'll be pinned down by a minigun and killed. That's why players just leave the game. It's all about abilities, the mode's concept and its gameplay mechanics, but that's a topic for a separate video. In my opinion, the game feels too mixed in terms of genre and style. It doesn't have a clear direction. There are just too many modes to keep track of. The game needs to settle in one direction and work on perfecting it. A great example is Dead by Daylight, where everything's clear and makes sense. You repair generators, just a simple routine. You save teammates, it creates some intrigue. You run from the killer, that's adrenaline. It all creates interest. The game has a clear, narrow direction which makes it easier to focus and improve. Year after year it gets better, as shown by online statistics and regular, relevant updates. I recently watched a comparison of the old and current versions of Dead by Daylight and was amazed by its progress. What's interesting about Dead by Daylight is how the game style changes and evolves, but it still maintains its core aesthetic. For example, some killers like the Knight, the Dark Lord, and a few others might seem a bit out of place at first, considering the game's more about modern, mystical world, but the game is not tied to any specific time period or style, so such additions don't feel forced. Moreover, each killer brings something unique. The gameplay is different and interesting. In my opinion, Dead by Daylight is a great example of how a game balances gameplay with its visuals and style. So such additions don't disrupt the game's aesthetic in the way something like Combat Arms does, even though they're two different games. When we talk about new skins and weapons in CA which are made in anime, fantasy style, or whatever you want to call it, I think it really messes with the game's aesthetic. I mean, this is a military game, so what's with the Anubis set, girls in bikinis, naked Hauser? It's just ridiculous and completely out of place. And it's not just about how they look. These items also have overpowered states like insanely high speed, defense. Players should enjoy the look of the items but not be blind by the crazy brightness and contrast of characters. OP items is basically a way to hook players. It's a good trick to grab attention, but it messed with the game's balance. Think of it like a legal form of cheating. It makes the game interesting in its own way. It feels cool when no one can catch you because you're faster, or when no one can headshot you with one shot, and the best part, you would not get banned for it. Some people just like being stronger in terms of states and don't see another ways to play, even if it's not about skill. Playing with an OP loadout isn't really about skill, and even though these items are expensive, there's still players who buy and use them. It benefits both the developers and players. Unfortunately, it messes up the game's balance, especially between players, but rules and moderation can fix that. I would not go too deep into this topic now, I'll make a separate video about it. So, Dead by Daylight is all about game development and a good balance between the genre and style. With Combat Arms it's kind of the opposite. Talking about map design and locations, Dead by Daylight does it right with versatile and well-designed scenes like TNL walls, jungle gyms, killer shack that are used on all maps. I think all quarantine maps should be created based on this idea. The scenes need to be practical, simple, and make sense to players, following the criteria I mentioned earlier. The map's area should be filled with minimal dead zones. It needs to have smooth paths without sharp stops, so players can move freely in different ways, plus some alternative routes for variety. About size, I would focus on smaller maps, packed with scenes, moderately dense, so the elements are close to each other and it's easy to climb or jump from one place to another, and multi-layered maps. What I mean by that? Just think of the map Hellgates. That's not about freerunning, it's more about random grenade throwing and spam. The main area is just an open field with boxes and barrels, basically just 2 levels of high, so this map doesn't meet the criteria. The map should also be visually appealing, with an environment that reflects the game's aesthetic. Quantum Labs, Lunar Labs are over the top, just like a lot of other maps. As for the genre and style of the game, as I said before, I think it's way too diverse. There are too many modes. The game needs a clear direction and refining. I would focus primarily on quarantine and tag modes, maybe even create a separate mode for practice. I would remove almost all the other modes and add new ones. Fireteam is not bad, it's mostly about farming XP, GP, which is good, so I would keep it, but I would change the mechanics. Zombie movement, gameplay, something closer to Call of Duty Zombies. I would also keep only 2-3 of the best maps because some of them just look ridiculous in the gameplay too, like that one with zombie robot that looks like a crab or scorpion, all these insects, so like what is that? Have you even played there? It's kind of a joke. Elimination, Search and Destroy, and other similar modes I would leave for now, but in future, once the game changes, I would probably remove them because they just mix up the game's direction. You can't keep track of everything. The game already needs major revisions. I think Counter-Strike fits these modes better. I've been thinking about changing the game's graphics. I would love to make it look like Borderlands. You can see these thick outlines around the elements, creating that comic style effect. These shaders, it's pretty cool. Instead of the same old military style, give the game a street style feel, imagining a gritty, urban freerunning game. I would also add sliding mechanics like in Warface, climbing animations like in Dying Light, and there's so much more I would want to add and change. New thematic gear, and I'm not talking just about skins, I mean new gear, new weapons, character progression, new ranking system, the ability to switch game languages, revamped mechanics, fresh design, new interface, and much more. I've got ideas, but it takes time to pull everything together, like writing scripts, making videos, and showing you the full picture. It's a lot of work. That's where your feedback is so important to me. Your comments, shares, I really appreciate it. It shows me all this work is actually worth it. I'm not a game dev or an expert in this field, but I've got ideas that I think are worth sharing. Thank you guys for your support. I'm already working on the next video. So stay active, drop your questions, share your thoughts, and let's chat. I would love to hear from all of you. That's all. Peace.